Hi, everyone. Welcome to Raw and Real. This is our short and sweet product demo series where we focus on how Honeycomb uses Honeycomb. If you're listening out there in the audience, if you could just let me know in the question box or wherever you can, let me know that you can hear me. I'd really appreciate that, paying attention to it. While everybody's finishing heating up their coffee this morning, we're going to give it 2 minutes. We will start promptly in 2 minutes. There we go. At 2 minutes after the hour, we will get going here with our episode for today. If you're just joining us for Raw and Real, we're going to begin in a couple of minutes. We do have a live stream going for this event. 1 second. This live stream is our live captions. So if you are interested in live captions for this event, you can find us over at Stream Text at Honeycomb Captions. There's the URL for you. And it is also on our Raw and Real sign-up page. For those of you interested in live captions, check us out on Stream Text. And we'll give it another minute here and get started. Oh, I see a few questions. Thank you for saying that you can hear me. Are we as awesome in person as you sound on the air? That's a great question, and I just want to let you all know that you can ask questions at any time. We'll get to them at the end if we don't cover them in the presentation. So I appreciate that. You're here with Kelly and Wild. Michael, you want to get going here? Should we get this show on the road?
I think that's a fantastic idea, Kelly.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. The live captions are up and going. You're at Raw and Real. Today's episode 2, is Tame the Alerts. Tame Your Alerts. SLOs, cut the noise, and calm the team. And I'm really excited to talk about this. Michael, it's, as we all know, it's kind of stressful times right now. And being able to focus on what matters most is really helping me keep sane. How are you doing? How are you finding things?
Yeah, tell me about it. It's really interesting in this weird time. Some of us are stoked that we get to work at home. Some of us are going crazy because we get to work at home. Most of the folks that are probably listening to my voice right now are probably some sort of tech worker, right? And the jobs that we can do, we can almost do them 24 hours a day. So sometimes you might find yourself working a little bit more than you had hoped. So just be careful out there. So
I appreciate you talking about that. I'm Kelly, Michael, my teammate over here at Honeycomb, and I'm really excited to focus on SLOs and Bubble Up today. SLO stands for Service Level Objective. Michael, can you tell everybody what that means?
Yeah, service level objective, the easiest way to think about it is all it is a goal. It's a goal that, you as a team decide on how well you want your service to work and what working actually means. Uptime is vastly different than working, as we know. But if you agree how well you want it to work and you agree what works, you also agree when to bother each other. It's not working, right? And today we're going to learn a whole bunch about that and how we actually do it at Honeycomb, but it's not such an esoteric topic. It's really easy to do and try to make your life a little bit better. So,
well, I'm really excited to dig into it. As stressful as it is around the world, what I'm really thinking about are folks on call, people who build and maintain software, people who are in operations. A lot of our customers, some of our customers have seasonal times that they know that they're going to be busy, right? Like we see this at Christmas time, we see it at Thanksgiving, some folks on Earth Day, they have their kind of seasonal, like all of our experience tells us that this is when it's going to hit. And I know that in the past few weeks, there are definitely some services, some companies who use Honeycomb and who don't, who have seen an unpredictable amount of attention on their products. And I just imagine like all of the alerts that they have reporting on what they knew about their systems with all of their experience. I can imagine the noise, like my partner's on call, our team's on call. What I see our team doing are making smart decisions on what to say yes to. And service level objectives, as I understand it, help us focus on what our users need. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, that's pretty good point, the saying yes to, because Honeycomb, like every other product in the world, can create alerts. Alerts are great because then you use this technology the engineering team built to do something for you. Instead of you having to look at it all the time, you have the robots let you know. The challenge is a lot of times alerts lack context. And sometimes there's an alert. I mean, we've all been in this situation where we started a job and there were alerts that were there. As a matter of fact, there are alerts that were there that were created, and that person who created them is now gone. And no one wants to get rid of an alert because what might happen? We might miss something. So I don't know. I think we have a little bit, the idea of service level objectives, less Honeycomb, give us a way through that. And I would like to show you a little bit about that.
Yeah, please show us what that looks like.
Okay, first, before I show you something, we're talking about dog fooding right here. This dog fooding is the process of using your own. So we got Dixie. You want to say hi, Dixie? You want a cookie? Dixie's my chocolate lab. There you go.
I can almost see her there, Michael.
So I brought Dixie with because some folks like Ryan and Vlad in our Slack group, Honeycomb Pollinators, shout out, thought it was a good idea. But hey, let me show you a few things. One of the key parts that Kelly mentioned was on call. Okay, Honeycomb is a product that you use and may work with me on and my other teammates. But Honeycomb is also a production service. So right now, I'm showing you this Slack window because there are two people from our team, Martin and Allison, that are on call. Okay,
let me check real quick, Michael. I'm sorry to interrupt. Are you sharing your screen?
You should have seen Slack.
I don't see it yet.
Okay, let me retry the whole screen.
Okay.
Weird.
Yeah, no problem. But
okay.
Folks can definitely see Dixie, so we definitely have.
Okay, are you seeing my screen now?
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing your screen.
Okay, maybe folks on the other end might let me know if they were seeing my screen at all.
Yeah.
It's possible that Kelly might not be seeing my screen.
Yeah, let's find out if it's me here. 1 second. We can see his screen. I hear it from our team over here.
Okay, so it was just awesome. Okay, great. So back to what we're talking about. Of course, it's raw and real, so it's okay to make mistakes and all of that and whatever. It's chaos. It's life. But Allison and Martin are on call right now. They build and support Honeycomb. So I have to respect their time because the challenge of an engineer, they're not solving problems 24/7. They're building code to then solve problems or create features. So given that I know that Allison and Martin are on call, one thing I actually don't want to do is chat with them right now because they're probably in the middle of something. And the other thing I don't want to do is create a whole bunch of alerts for them that are spurious. Okay, so let's take a look a little bit at about kind of this approach that we're taking at Honeycomb of, kind of a better way to generally alert. Okay, so if we check out the screen, this is the Honeycomb default user interface, except this, like Dixie, is dog food. Okay, well, Dixie's actually not dog food. She's my dog. But this is one of the few Honeycomb deployments of the world, and the job of dog food is to monitor and provide observability for the production Honeycomb that our customers use. The very thing that Allison and Martin are literally supporting right now. As a matter of fact, if we look on the left-hand side of the screen, we see recent activity, and we did another raw and real called Remote But Not Alone. It was all about this activity thing. But yes, we can see Allison's on call, Molly's in support, they're at work, they're doing what what we need them to do. Well, one of the things that when Allison debugs Honeycomb is she has the ability to look at any of the services that we have and ask a vast number of questions. So we'll look at two different things today, the ingestion API as far as services, and we'll look at our web front end, which we call Poodle. But before we get there, you're going to see me clicking and dragging and showing Bubble Up and a bunch of other things, and then telling you about features that you shouldn't really use very often. But how does data get into Honeycomb? It gets there via structured events being generated by systems. Could be a log, but in our case, we add fields to every feature that we create. So from the user interface, this is a little bit of Honeycomb's source code on how we're adding fields to traces. So if Allison wants to ask a question about a specific user, well, having this add field, the field in there of user.email is fantastic. Okay. Maybe if it was the very first time that you got invited to Honeycomb, having the invite token there. All of these things that are available on every log event or span make it possible for folks to ask an interesting number of questions. Now, if we were to kind of skip ahead to part of the end is when it comes to alerting, well, how do we alert? As I said, most systems have a way for you to automate their querying, searching, whatever. And if you look at in Honeycomb, we do that. It's called triggers. You can create triggers. In Honeycomb, you can create the same kind of triggers that will cause somebody to not delete that 3 years from now. But if you look at what we do, half of them are disabled, mostly because we now do SLOs, but many of them are really informative, right? Someone in support, Molly, has got some, if a specific customer has a traffic that drops low. Or, and as you notice, these are going to Molly. They're not going to on-call. We're working on this Grafana plugin, and are people using it? So we'll use Honeycomb dog food to notify ourselves of non-critical events with triggering. Sure, there are some critical events, but a trigger itself allows us to run a query on a frequent basis. Since Honeycomb is a high cardinality analytics system, you really could run queries really frequently, like every minute, and not have them stack up. But ultimately, I get to run a query and then do something about it. In this case, we're just looking at anytime someone's using this plugin, but and it's alerted a project channel in Slack. So that's great. But if we're not using most of these random triggers for production, well, what are we using? Okay, so let's show you the mother of all alerts, and the mother of all alerts is some query or some search. So when we were talking earlier about Allison and what she can and can't do in Honeycomb, if we were looking at that specific service, in which this case we call Poodle, which is the front end of Honeycomb, granted you're looking at a front end, but just follow me on this. It's the thing that everyone logs into. Mm-hmm. And on the right-hand side of the screen, while we see my history and team activity, we also see details. And that's all the fields that were generated from the code that's running to build Honeycomb. So as you can see, we've got everything from feature flags in here to email to, all sorts of different things that are created. I never counted. There's probably 200, 300, 400, who knows? There's a lot. Mm-hmm. And it actually doesn't cost the Honeycomb user anything else, because we like to deal with wide events, right? You add 200 fields to a span, it's no big deal, but it makes it possible for her to ask a lot of questions. But it also could make it possible for you to create 1 billion alerts, right? So the first thing we start doing is figuring out, is there something interesting, right? So we have this query here. Bubble Up is a really great tool because it helps me look at something that I find interesting. In this case, some page load time might be more than 14,000 milliseconds. Maybe that's long. And what Bubble Up does, it does this analysis and kind of helps me understand, well, what's going on? Well, it looks like it's happening on one particular data set. Okay. It's one particular team. Maybe it's a specific team ID. And of course, I could drill into a deep level and actually go and look at a trace or an event and go all the way down here. Bubble Up becomes really powerful because its job is to point you in the direction that you might not even know you should look. I kind of say it's like asking the second question. So we get down to this trace and we find somebody took 15 seconds to load the page or whatever. Obviously, we can see this one part. Was a question?
No, I'm sorry. I see what you're saying. So what it is Bubble Up lets me select data points that kind of aren't really in the baseline. So you can really compare just like what's interesting over the baseline of everything that's happening. Do I understand that right?
Yeah, you're right. But it also helps me make sense out of these points that are on a chart, because often we can see something slow, but we're not sure why. And we're actually not sure what the next thing we're supposed to look for on.
Okay.
Ultimately, we'll get to this point where, hey, we found someone's experience and we have lots of fields over here, and that's fantastic. And it looks like who's one of my fellow sales reps here, probably had a slower page load time for whatever reason. Now, I guess the real question is like, should we alert because Win had a bad time? Well, technically, we're actually not going to alert if a Honeycomb employee has a bad time, but I might end up doing something like, hey, let's run a P95 or find the 95th percentile of request latency. That's basically going to filter out all the slow things. So we have some that are slow, and okay, that's 18 seconds. What should we do about it? Well, the mother of all alerts is a well-crafted searcher query. Okay, you can do this in any tool, but in this case, we might say, let's do a P95 on duration. We don't really alert on a heat map per se.
Okay.
And then let's, have this thing, if it's more than, 12,000 milliseconds, which is 12 seconds, set an alert. But you know what? This is where I was talking about that maybe you shouldn't do this, okay? Maybe you shouldn't just randomly create alerts because, one, nobody knows why Wild created this alert unless I took the time to put a description and said, delete this after a year or throw it away after I'm no longer here. So what should we do, right? Well, we could do ourselves a little bit better by using service level objectives. So to Kelly's, question about, sane or alerting and kind of looking at the world, if you're not necessarily going to do rando alerts, then how do you make an agreement on your team of what your service is and how the thing is supposed to perform? You sit down, look at your data, and actually talk about it. Right? And you also talk about what you want to do. So we talked amongst ourselves and said, where are people going to notice if Honeycomb is slow, not performing right, or a bad experience? Some of those people, by the way, are not you, the customer. Some of them are internal engineers. So if build time is slow, maybe that's something, because we don't want to, have grumpy engineers that are waiting for their build to finish. Well, if we look at specifically two SLOs, we were talking about the ingestion API. So a lot of stuff on the screen here, but let me break it down for you. So one, and this is unique about Honeycomb because its backend data store allows for the analysis of the raw data in near real time in very high dimensionality. Not the kind of thing a metrics tool could do, not the kind of thing a log analytics tool could do. This is really the kind of analytics, to be honest, your CFO has access to, but in this case, developers get it. So we sat down and said, our ingestion pipeline needs to work. It needs to work 99.9% of the time doing specific things, not available. Okay, it's not like Pingdom says we're up. Yes, it's important we're up. If we're not up, we can't succeed. But what is an eligible event? Well, the SLI or service level indicator is the filter that says, of all the stuff that comes in, this is the class of events we'll consider worthy of evaluation. Like some random HTTP 400 error is not our fault. So I would never want to alert on that, never want to consider that a success or a failure. But this simple SLI is just a filter that says, in English, it has to be on two specific endpoints and a post. It can't be the following things, and it has to be a 200. This is an error SLO. Okay. Well, because Honeycomb's got this fast analytics engine, it knows the exact number of events that should succeed in that 30-day period. And it builds you an error budget, lets you know where you're at, allows you to have exhaustion alerts prior to you getting below your goal, not prior to being down, but prior to getting below your goal. So as you can see, Martin is not right now getting alerted because someone's having less than stellar time ingesting their events. However, the cool thing about observability is, well, we can just go in and look at any time and debug anything. So I've not alerted these folks, and but customer success, customer support, anybody else, even a random engineer could just go in here and say, I wonder how things are doing. Looks like somebody's sending us events that are too big, and there are other fields associated with that. Well, here's another thing. Should we alert on the front end? So interestingly, we saw that alert before. We saw that maybe Win was having a slow page load time. This is the SLO for Poodle page loads, which is the front end. So it looks like we actually do have triggering. Granted, we're still above 99% of eligible events, which in this case, it's a page load time. Could be any page load event less than 10 seconds, right? So as we can see, Wins would have fallen out of that. But whether it's triggered or not, I have the ability to see exactly which users are affected, potentially which teams, and all these other facets. And that bubble up has been done for me automatically. A couple other things that you might see, the homepage itself, right? So when you load not www.honeycomb.io, but when we loaded up this main homepage here, that should load within a certain amount of time. So it seems like there's some correlation with some slow page loads and on both query and the homepage itself. But as we can see, this is a specifically different SLI. So in this case, we don't alert if a Honeycomb employee is having an issue. They're very important, but as you can see, Win's slow page load time wouldn't happen in here. But there's a couple of other things in here that say, can't be support, have to be logged in, has to be less than 250 milliseconds. That's the agreement that you set. What is success? How well do you want to be? How good do you want to be at your service? And what you should do about it when it's not working so well. And that's what we generally think at Honeycomb is set some goals, try to meet them, make sure that you see. Let's stop sharing. Are we back? I'm trying to click the stop sharing button here. Am I still sharing, Kelly?
It looks like it. I actually had to pull up my phone so that I could see.
Okay, yeah.
Looks like you're still sharing.
Okay, I'm trying to click on not share screen. It thinks I'm sharing. Anyways.
Good, perfect.
Yeah, you can take over or kill that. But, the point here is there should be a way to have much saner alerting. And I like the idea of service level objectives because we have, we've got this ability to kind of, keep Allison focused on, non-random stuff, basically.
Gotcha. I really appreciate you talking about all of that. I just want to remind everybody listening at home right now, if you have any questions, if you put them in the question box at the bottom of your screen, we'll get it. We'll take questions at this time. And while we're waiting, what I'm curious about, Michael, is I can imagine a team coming together with some goals. Like you just get started, you have one goal. This is a new thing for us. We're going to start with service level objectives. What do you know what one of the first goals is that our team set?
Yeah, some of the first goals that we set were basically for the two core services that we have, right? There's two main things that Honeycomb actually has to be good at. It's taking events in, right? That goes through our Shepherd event service and presenting a user interface. And that is Poodle. And then of course there's that middle area of, how is query actually working? So for most situations, like I said before, think about where users will see your stellar software working great, or they'll notice that it's not so great. And the one thing about SLOs is you also want to match users' memory. If you set an SLO for 99.5% of eligible events in a 1-day period, if you fail yesterday and succeed today, they're going to remember yesterday. And actually, you'll be in the same boat of people freaking out over alerts. Versus just saying, hey, let's judge ourselves on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. and then have data that backs that up as well. So.
Gotcha. So I can see how you have to start with something and see how it works and then iterate from there. Is it easy to adjust SLOs in Honeycomb?
It is. That's great. The SLO comes in two specific parts. One, it's the SLI. So, the filter that says it's on this endpoint, it's of this latency, it's of this error code. It's pretty frequent that when someone makes an SLO, they've judged themselves in a way that might be a little too harsh, right? Or they might have too many events. And it turns out instantly they make the SLO, they are blown out. They're at negative 9,000%. So you go through this process of just, evaluating what are the events that you have, what are the things that are successful and failure. You take and tweak the SLI to get that scope of events, and then Honeycomb will measure that for you. Now, does it mean you can perform at 4 nines, 5 nines, 3 nines? It doesn't necessarily, but you may then set your goal and say, hey, we can't be at 4 nines. We've got the success versus failures, but we can't be at 4 nines. Let's just try to be 3 nines or 2 nines. And then when your error budget expires, that's the point in time when you really want to stop shipping code, fix the things that are causing the error, and then make a decision whether you want to continue that as well. So it's a refinement process. We do it over time. It's very, very easy to do in Honeycomb.
I really like how you describe it. It seems to me that all of these nuances actually allow production to be more resilient, more reliable, and I feel like we could actually talk about that for a really long time. I'm gonna switch over. We have a few questions coming in. Someone asked, how many SLIs make up an SLO?
Good question. Well, a service level objective has a service level indicator. So one SLI makes up an SLO, but an SLI itself may be could be a fairly complex filter on your events, or a complex set of scenarios that you might have a bunch of ifs, ands, ors, and things like that give you the idea. Because from that SLI, we are going to have a successful or failed event, and that's going to correspond to an SLO. Now, what you don't want to do is make 1,000 SLOs, because then you've basically replicated the process of errors, of triggers or alerts in any other way, right? You want to really look at your service and say, how should we measure ourselves? How do we want to perform? And the great thing is, you can actually report to your executive team and your whole team, hey, you know what? I know you might not think we're up, but actually we're still above 4 nines. Sure, some people complain, but our team is doing what they're supposed to do.
You're right. That story can often stand out with people. And I really appreciate that SLOs are kind of a data-driven way to measure how production is actually performing, where everybody can kind of key into it. It keeps engineering and management on the same page so that you can take the stories that people remember and talk about the data behind it to say, well, okay, this is what's actually going on. You get a deeper meaning behind it. I'm going to skip to this one right here. You talked about not doing thousands of SLOs to start. What's your recommendation generally for how many SLOs someone should start out with, or a team should start out with?
Yeah, that's a good question. Hey, Kelly, is there a chance that you could take over sharing? Because it's just, all I see is a black screen, or at least kill my ability to share so we can just talk on the screen. But anyways, to answer that question, how many SLOs should you start out with? I would say I would try to get coverage on most of your services. Let's say if you have 150 microservices, does that mean you want 150 SLOs? Maybe, maybe not. You might look at the core services, the thing that you build does. And let's say if you're a financial services institution, you have a login page, authentication. That's a good one. Okay. And then perhaps that next screen, which paints balances, retrieves accounts, or whatever. Maybe there are 2 or 3 services that make up parts of that page. So you may want to have SLOs for those. You also might have a backend service that the front end users would never notice, but other developers' services call frequently. And they are the ones that have to say, hey, are we up? Because the one thing about SLOs, you can literally give this to a first line support person, because the very first thing that people ask is, are we up? Well, the SLO says, yes, you're up, or no, we're not. Because even on the front line, you want to be able to know that other people, awesome, somebody sees both of us talking, that's great. It's
Yes.
just weirdness on my end. You want other people, if you're running a production system, you want awareness for everybody on how we're doing, right? So it's not like Molly, for example, has to ask, hey, are we up? Molly can look at the production system of the front end of Honeycomb and say, oh, it looks like we're experiencing some trouble and it's been triggered. Awesome. I have 2 pieces of info that I can now tell my end customer, and then I can contact on call and see what they're doing about the problem. And then the other thing is keys to get management buy-in. One great way to look at this is, how do you measure success? Sure, if you make software as a service or you provide something to customers that actually sign contracts with you, you often have an SLA. But those are very high level. Sometimes internally, people measure themselves, and I'm sounding incredulous here, and I don't mean to. Sometimes the way in which people measure themselves is the number of complaints or the number of thumbs up on your Yelp page or the number of times that Pingdom says we're up or the status page. And really, how is anybody in ops and engineering able to know that the stuff that I shipped is working and that I did a good job? Yeah, it works. Great. It works in test and everything looks fine. But what's the real experience of the user? I think asking yourselves, asking management, how is it that we measure ourselves? I hope the heck it isn't the number of times alerts happen. I hope the heck it is looking at a user, what their experience is, whether it's internal, external, understanding what a successful experience is, and if you're meeting your goals. Because you look at an SLO and the number of 9s, that translates to N numbers of allowable failures, which is important because you actually have to give yourself permission to fail. If you don't, you're going to go mad, and you have to tell your executives, listen, we cannot succeed at 100% of transactions. Not every single trade goes through 100% of the time on NASDAQ. It's a fact. So that said, if you can understand how to measure yourselves, give yourself some sanity, you end up having a happier team that stays working at your company, and your executives have the ability to say, oh, look, our authentication service is performing. What happens if we add 10,000 more users a second to it? What's going to happen? Those are some of the things to think about. And I'll bet you if you ask the internal question of how do we really measure ourselves, you'll be quite surprised.
Okay. That's really, really helpful. And I like how you put it in terms of and I think if anybody had this idea in the before times, as we call it right now, in the past several weeks, perfection doesn't exist. And that's being proven globally at this moment.
Sure.
So it's a really good time to have these kind of nuanced conversations about, all right, here's what we can do if we talk about the math behind our experience. But if we're talking about our users and their happiness as the ultimate goal, this observability gives you the nuance to get in there and really focus on a more kind of individual level, but without sacrificing speed or reliability. And that's a really kind of big thing to wrap heads around. I bet we could talk about that for a while, so I hate to jump into it or skip it too much. What I'm learning is people have tons of questions. So Michael, I'm going to keep going until we get cut off here. Do you have any thoughts? Actually, this is a great one for our team. How do we ensure that our alerts are actionable? Can you give us any insight there?
That's a good question. So how do you ensure they're actionable? I would say that first, I think actionable is an interesting word, right? Because it could mean the alert that goes off. Is it being sent to the right place? Is it being sent to the right people? Is it going to the right PagerDuty group, or is it going to the right Slack channel, or is it going to the right email address? So that's one. So That you got to make sure that nobody can help you with. But just like we showed at the very beginning, we have a group in Slack called Eng on Call, and that group changes every day. So if we start to look at who is going to service these alerts, then are they getting the alerts that they need to? And then if you look at actionables, can they do something about it when it actually fires, right? So we might hope, well, and that's another whole diatribe, meaning that Allison and Martin are engineers, and our engineers are on call. We believe strongly in that. The folks that build and support Honeycomb build and support Honeycomb. That means is it possible for Martin to take action on that particular alert? In this case, it is. He has access to production code, can ship code to production with a review. So that question is a little bit more than just about monitoring. But finally, what you do want to do is take a look at the alerts that you have and make sure they're worthy of someone's action, because that was how I started out this. I don't want to create an alert because some random person had a slow time. Because if you just do it like that, then what am I giving Martin and Allison? Just, hey, here's some stuff that lacks context. Because if Wen had a bad time, and it really wasn't a bad time, maybe it was a super long query, and that's a good thing, right? You have to be, that's why you got to be mindful of the people that are on call. Put people on call, put engineers on call. It's not a bad thing. It just allows them to be actionable on the alerts that they actually have. So.
I also like what you're talking about. I mean, we learned this in emergency response situations in physical environments here in the Bay. The group, the team can be more resilient as each person has more capability to have more context and be more resilient. And if everybody can do that, the whole group gets stronger. I'm blown away by that personally. I think it's kind of amazing. That's all we have time for today. Michael, any final wrap up, any final words of wisdom?
I would say that stop creating alerts on CPU. That's just my opinion. We're in a cloud native world. CPU alerts are just fine, but do the kind of alerts that let you know if someone's really having a bad time. Sure, you can create CPU alerts and all that. And my dog Dixie was quite good on the call, so she did get another cookie if anyone was wondering how Dixie is. So have an awesome day, everyone.
Thank you. I'm going to have a few words of wrap up just really, really quick. Thank you, Michael, for your time, and thank you for showing us this. You've been here at Raw and Real, episode 2, Tame Your Alerts. If you have more questions, you can reach out to team@honeycomb.io. If you know us and love us, there's a support chat on our website that you can reach out there, and you'll get routed to the right place. Nathan is part of our team. Nathan LeClaire talks in our webcast SLO, our SLOs Get Started and Build. Just one simple SLO really goes into detail about how one of our customers, Clover Health, got started getting their team on the same page and bridging engineering and management. And then Nathan specifically demos how to get started and build that first SLO. So I recommend that you check it out. It's on our website. Also, there'll be a survey after this. If you could fill it out, help us be better by filling out some information so we can improve for you. If you're new to Honeycomb and want to play with an anonymized data set, you can find that at honeycomb.io. And if you're ready to get started, of course, let me do our sales bit right here, and you can get in for a free trial and really explore what observability could bring to the table if you haven't already. Thanks again, Vanessa over at Honeycomb Captions. I really appreciate you doing these live captions for us. And thank you to our audience and team for being here. Y'all stay safe. We'll see you in the future.
See ya. Thanks.